Hello and welcome back to the Tao of Fred, where we explore myths and legends of all kinds in the never-ending search for wisdom. Today I've got a real special story for you, an allegory of sorts, which I call the parable of wisdom. And this is a great story, uh, a great a legend or myth from ancient times. It's a story about a temple. It's a story about a couple of sisters. It's a story about search for truth, and all very interesting subject matter. So let's turn back the clock a few thousand years, sit back and listen to this story. So there was once in ancient times, there was a temple, and it was located at the base of a great mountain. And the temple was called Veritas. And there were two sisters who were both trying to find their way to reach this temple. One sister, her name was Sophia, and another sister, her name was Phyiska. And the two of them were they're a little bit like sibling rivals. And they were both competing in their own ways to find a way to reach this great temple, to reach the truth. Now, Sophia, she was the older sister. She was very inward facing. She was more of the introverted type. Um, she used myths and stories. Her tools were things like scales for weighing and measuring, a key. She wore a veil. She used mirrors for reflection and introspection, and she was a symbol of moral philosophy. Now, her younger sister, her name was Physika. She was the younger and the more outward, more extroverted, exploring the world and 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 constantly discovering and looking for new things out in nature. Her tools were things like the compass, an hourglass, telescope, microscope, the crucible for mixing her herbs and various ingredients to make her potions and elixirs. And Physica, she represents natural philosophy, so a bit like more the scientific side of things. And so the two of them, they were on a quest uh, to reach this Temple of Veritas, and they were traveling from different directions. Now, the older sister, Sophia, she took the route of the pilgrim. She followed the trails and the more the busier roads, the roads that passed through the villages, where she could meet with the villagers and the village elders and share stories and help the elders resolve their village disputes and things like this. Her sister, uh, Physica, she took the trails and paths that led through the forest, through the natural world, where she could take time to examine the trees and study the flowers and the search for rare insects and rare mushrooms, and she could spend the night looking up at the sky and mapping the stars. And so there she made her way um, towards the temple, and the two of them continued, and both paths, it turns out, led to the temple, and they both arrived at the Temple of Veritas around the same time. And when they entered the temple, they found a great circular hall with mirrors all around the outside of the circle, facing inwards, and a candle at the center of the temple. And so the two sisters circled around the candle, um, looking at each other, looking at the candle, studying the temple. And they saw in the mirrors, they saw the reflection of one another. But instead of seeing one another in their true aspect, they would only see the reverse image of the other. which was incomplete and filled with gaps. And this is how they perceived one another in this hall of truth. But then they found when they looked at the candle together and gazed at the light from this candle, there was a something special happened. A union took place. There there was a coming together, and in that coming together, they were able to see not only what how things were or how things seemed to be, but they were able to perceive possibility of how things could become. And this was a moment of enlightenment for the two of them when all things came together and the realization of all possibilities. And that, my friends, is the great story of the allegory of philosophy. And in this story, we see the competing interests that we might even recognize today. Um, we could define them as science and religion, which are often pitted as irreconcilable enemies, conflicting viewpoints that can't be brought together, that can't be reconciled. And in fact, there's simply two different ways of experiencing the world. Each of them on their own is incomplete without the other. And in fact, they do need to come together somehow. And we see these battles all over the place in the culture wars that we're witnessing, sadly, at the moment in debates over bioethics, things like uh, genetic modification, things like the use of artificial intelligence technology. Um, Technology is definitely at the center of this debate, um, as it was in the myth of um, Prometheus, who brought fire from the gods and gave it to the humans, and another great myth, which we may explore in the near future, because it's one of my favorites. It's a more familiar story that's always worth reflecting on. But that the use of that technology, Prometheus's fire, and the responsibility that comes with that knowledge. Uh, it's a fascinating topic to reflect on, and a topic for Sophia and Phyiska to reflect on. And it's an interesting one. There are many parallels between these two sisters and other goddesses throughout the world religion pantheon. We can see in Sophia, the older sister, the sister of moral philosophy. She can be equated to um, Athena, the the goddess of wisdom of of ancient Greece, um, and other goddesses. The goddess Justitia, I believe, the Roman goddess of justice. As I said earlier, one of her tools was the scales, um, the scales of justice. Also, the Egyptian goddess Maat, who we see there. Those are the scales, and in the background we see a picture from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where the dead would come and put their heart on the scale and have it weighed against the feather. And if the heart was heavier than the feather, then they would have to head down into the underworld with that beastly creature on the far right of the papyrus scroll, who I think he had a crocodile head and a lion's body and a boar's derriere. Some mythological combination of three different animals. I forget the exact components there, but the point was that they needed to have a light heart, lighter than a feather, not overburdened by guilt and conscience and whatnot. And so that was Maat. She was, yeah, she's analogous to Sophia in the story. And the other goddess, Physika, she's analogous to some other goddesses we might remember. Urania is a cool one. Um, she was a Roman goddess of astrology. You can see her there with the stars, around her head. Um, Seshat, another Egyptian goddess, goddess of wisdom and knowledge, um, fascinated by the natural world. Isis, another Egyptian goddess of what was she, a goddess of beauty and things like that. She was able to reconstitute her brother Osiris when he was disintegrated into 42 different pieces. She was able to travel around the lands and bring those pieces back together and reunite him and essentially bring him back to life. And Gaia would be another um, goddess who is similar to Physika in our story. Gaia, the Greek goddess, Mother Earth goddess. Her name is probably familiar to us. And so these are a couple different kind of archetypal energies that have been with us for eons and eons, and it doesn't seem like they're going away anytime soon. So keep these two in mind as you are on your never-ending quest for truth and wisdom. That the path is not it's not about committing yourself to one path while excluding all others, but embracing um, the yin and the yang, if we may put it in Taoist terms, and finding that middle path that embraces all possibilities. So I hope you enjoyed that story. Have a great day. Feel free to reach out, leave comments, and tell a friend. And take care of yourself and those around you.